Hello, Obooters from around the world. My name is Kites and I am 11 years old and I live in Montreal, Canada. Welcome to our Oboot Zoom session where me and my two co-hosts, Anis, who is 13 years old and currently lives in London, England, and Nora, who is 14 years old and currently lives in Jeddah in Saudi Arabia. We'll be interviewing our guest changemaker, Charles Newman, who is based in Brooklyn, New York. Charles is an architectural designer who is dedicated to international development and to improving the lives of those most in need. His projects are often located in parts of the world where resources are limited, so he tries to develop low-cost and high-impact design solutions together with the communities that he's serving. Charles' work links to several sustainable development goals, especially SDG number 11, Sustainable Cities and Communities. Anissa, Nora, and I will ask questions to Charles about his background, his journey, his work, his skills, and his impact. We hope that you will enjoy the session, and I will now be handing you over to Anissa to ask the first question.
Hi, Faisal. So how did you get the idea to initiate the Kibera Public Space project?
Okay. Well, thank you for the introduction, Kais, and thanks for the good icebreaker, Nisi. So to clarify, I worked with Concrete Design Initiative for a number of years. And they are based both in the United States and in Kenya. And I joined their team after the Kibera Public Space project was already initiated. So I was sort of following suit and sort of supporting the founders of Concrete Design Initiative. And their first project within the Kibera Public Space project was actually started as a school project in graduate school. And they had a lot of ideas as how to create public space within some very difficult contexts. And one of the members of their student team was from Nairobi. And so they traveled there to investigate potential opportunities for creating a public space in a very sort of challenged neighborhood of Nairobi called Kibera. And they interviewed a lot of people. They started to sort of put together their project for class. But then after submitting their assignment, they realized that all they really did was ask a lot of questions. They didn't actually have an opportunity to create change. So a year or so later, they returned to Nairobi and actually developed a public space project within the Kibera neighborhood. And then over time, it took a number of years, but they were able to create a second project and a third project. And it was at that time that the leadership of the organization was mostly urban planners. And they realized that they needed to actually take steps to hire an architect. So I was just over the border, well, a couple countries away. At the time, I was living in the Democratic Republic of Congo. And I was building a number of different structures in and around the eastern half of the country. So they contacted me because they needed an architect who would be able to work with all of the community residents and essentially turn their visions into public infrastructure projects. And so that's when I joined the team there. And over the course of my 2 or so years there, we built a few playgrounds, we built a number of bridges, we built a number of water and sanitation facilities and water distribution projects. So that my work with KDI has been wonderfully fulfilling, and I'm still in very good contact with a lot of the team members there. But the team is still doing some wonderful work, but they're starting to think of broader issues pertaining to flood risk and resilience and responsible development. Before another question comes, Nisi, have you heard of? Have you seen many images of the Kibera Public Space project?
I had a look at a few pictures, not many though, about 5 or so.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just like pictures of some of the structures and I think it was like in 2008 one of the pictures was taken.
Okay. Well, maybe I could share my screen quite briefly, just from my, can you see this here? Can I get some thumbs up or thumbs down?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So this is one of the public space projects. I have a very brief explanation here, but you can see that this is part of the Kibera neighborhood here. And you can see that this is a large river that passes through. And when it comes to creating public space in some of these environments, there's very little land available for such little public parks, some things that we often take for granted because there is no land ownership, right? That might be a difficult concept to wrap our minds around, but no one owns it and everyone just builds their houses there. And so any open space is usually taken up by someone's home. So the only spaces really available are like flood zones or dumping areas. And so this project was along the waterway there, and it was prone to flooding. So a lot of our designs actually, our design decisions involved creating flood protection. So here's one of the sort of initial renderings that we've put together. Here you can see a plan that shows the water and sanitation block, a small play space area, circulation access, which includes a bridge over the river, which is a big important component, and then a gathering space with a sort of shade structure, auditorium kind of space. And here you can see it completed in the end. But I think what was most important is that, and I'm sorry the images aren't shown here, there was a lot of collaboration back and forth between community residents and our design team. So this is actually another sanitation block within the Kibera Public Space project that we developed, which is actually a compost toilet system. So in this area, there wasn't enough, there weren't sewer lines available to actually create the flush toilets that we might be familiar with. It was also in a flood zone area, so we couldn't do a septic tank like is often done. So we had to create a composting system. And along with creating the composting system, we also designed and built the building, of course. And we used some interesting techniques, which were soil stabilized interlocking bricks, which were somewhat new at the time. And the project came together and has actually sort of become like a little landmark within the public space project. So these are two of the many projects that I worked on over the course of 2 years with KDI.
That's really cool. I really like that. I really love the idea. It's really cool. So my question is, how has COVID-19 affected your job and what you did on a daily basis?
So, well, since leaving KDI, and like I said, I'm still on like all the WhatsApp groups with the team. We still stay in very good contact, and we collaborate on different opportunities sometimes. I've since taken it upon myself to put myself forward as a teammate for different initiatives. So I've worked with a number of different organizations, ranging from different sort of philanthropic foundations to large international NGOs that have very broad programs that they hope to address, like improving healthcare, providing food for people that might be in need, or building communities for refugees, groups of refugees that come over a border, right? And so sometimes those goals require an architect. And so I've put myself forward as a sort of support consultant to assist in these efforts. So to get to your question, because I've positioned myself as almost like a support teammate for some of these bigger organizations, I work on my own, right? And sometimes if an organization approaches me and they say, all right, we need an architect, but we also need a public health professional. We also need, a water engineer. What I do is I reach out to my network and I gather colleagues and friends of mine that have these other professions, and I say, all right, let's make a team and let's address this project and support this organization. So essentially, I've been working remotely even before COVID-19. And that has been actually kind of nice because it means that, well, at least before COVID-19, I could travel to different places and I could work from anywhere in the world. And as long as I have an internet connection, I can collaborate with my teammates across time zones. With regards to COVID-19 specifically, it's been very interesting, and it's been tough for all of us, right? But what's been particularly tough for me is my work as an architect, as working within international development in these delicate environments. Is my work is very much geared towards long-term development, long-term solutions. And it takes a lot of planning. It takes a lot of investment of time and energy. These initiatives can be very expensive. And so because they're so long-term, in light of the COVID-19 situation, they've tended to be sort of put on hold for a little bit while we try to address more urgent concerns pertaining to the pandemic, right? So what I've found over the past year is a number of my international contracts and partnerships have sort of slowed down. And we're saying, all right, maybe in a year or so, we can pick that back up. So, I have to stay busy. So I've been able to, therefore, find more domestic projects. Like here in the US, I've started to work with some teams of architects, some other philanthropists who are hoping to develop sort of community scale projects in and around the US. And so it's interesting though, because if the COVID-19 pandemic were to be resolved tomorrow, I think I might have, I would still sort of have to follow through on some of these projects that I've started here. And then maybe in a year or two, I would be able to transition back to more international work. Because architecture and development more broadly, it just has a longer life scale or timeline, right? So So it's been interesting to see how the international climate and sort of current events can shape one's career trajectory. I hope I answered your question, Nora.
I'm so sorry, my computer like froze or something, but now on my mom's computer, and I'm not sure if this question has been asked, but do the residents of Kibera themselves evangelate about this breakthrough and help it to spread?
Evangelate on what?
This breakthrough, like the project.
Well, so the Kibera Public Space project is actually a combination of sort of individual nodes and of public space projects, right? And with the completion of each project, we would work on actually bringing the residents from around each project together and actually help them create partnerships, whether they're sort of business partnerships or social and cultural sort of connections, to really improve perhaps the sense of community across the settlement. And some of these ties have actually led to broader, more urgent and pressing initiatives, such as monitoring public health threats and concerns, ranging from flooding risk to sort of cholera and health concerns. And now the team is actually sort of activating their networks of community partners throughout the Kibera Public Space project to raise awareness about COVID-19 best practices, if you could say. So within the Kibera Public Space project, I think that there are a number of successes, and I think of all of the many organizations that work throughout Kibera, the Kibera Public Space Project and KDI is well recognized and supported by the residents within and around Kibera. So I hope that answered your question, Anis, as well.
Yeah, it did. Thank you.
When you were younger, what inspired you to become an architect? Like, what things were you exposed to that like made you go like, wow, I want to be an architect. I want to do this when I'm older. But like, obviously technology wasn't as, advanced as it is now. So, yeah.
Well, I think in the very beginning, I always loved to draw. I'm an American, as you guys are aware, so I think the first thing I really liked drawing as a boy were cowboys and horses. But I loved to draw, and then as I started to get further into school, into high school even, I started to really enjoy math and physics. And I found myself in my free time building models either of bridges or of cars, and I really enjoyed the sort of initial stages of design. Even though I might not have really understood all that it entails, I loved crafting things and creating images at the very least. And my mother has said for years that even when I was a young child, younger than you guys even, she always knew I was going to be an architect. And she claims that to today. But once it came to going to college or university, I was looking to either do architecture, engineering, or theater, interestingly enough. but I chose architecture, and I can say in full confidence that I'm very happy I did. I think that it gives me a sense of fulfillment every day that I get to draw and create some level of change in the world. But I think to answer your question, it was my enjoyment of drawing and creating, and I could also really see whenever there were sort of school projects that involved building or problem solving and crafting something, I dedicated all of my time to it, and it didn't seem like homework. And so I think that was really what turned me towards architecture, and perhaps what my mother saw in me, right?
Okay. If you could have one further initiative to help the Kibera Public Space project, what would it be?
Well, you know, so I think I should make it clear that, you know, I don't still work with KDI in the Kibera Public Space project. I'm still, like I said, I'm still great friends with them, and we collaborate here and there, and we keep in very good contact. But I've taken a lot of those sort of experiences and partnerships that I've developed through the Kibera Public Space project and applied them to some of my own more recent work. And one of the most recent projects that I really enjoyed, that was very fulfilling, I actually served as a playground designer in partnership with a large multinational international NGO, non-government organization. And they were working on a project of early childhood development to create spaces for children to come together and learn through play. And they were targeting some of the most vulnerable communities around the world. And these are in refugee camps. And so over the course of about a year, I designed 15 individual little public space playground projects in refugee camps spanning from Pakistan to Thailand to Bangladesh, 5 in each of these countries. And it was very, it was fun. I mean, what's not fun about designing a playground, right? But what was really exciting was I had the opportunity to travel to these communities and meet with not just the teachers and the parents, but the kids also. And I was able to design some activities so they could vote on their favorite kind of playground, and also created some voting exercises with parents so they could help communicate their most important concerns for a public space or a playground for their kids. And so it was a lot of work. You can imagine 15 projects within a very short amount of time, not only designing the play structures, but breaking down each individual component and sort of saying, all right, well, we're going to need 50 bolts, we're going to need 100 tires, we're going to need shovels. How many shovels are we going to need? You know, for each of the 15 projects. It was quite a bit of work. But I think that that project was really born from a lot of what I learned and participated in through Concrete Design Initiative and the Kibera Public Space Project. And I'm constantly looking to build upon my experiences and to bring my excitement for design and collaborative development to new communities.
All right. I don't think we have time for another question. Sorry, Nora.
Mhm.
But thank you to everybody and for everything that we learned. And make sure to follow us on Instagram and Twitter and to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you can hear about upcoming sessions with other changemakers. Please tell your friends about Oboot and share social media links with them. And last but not least, go to www.oboot.co to learn about opportunities to collect digital badges and help us draw down carbon.
All right. Well, thank you, Caius, and thank you, everyone. Anis and Nora, thank you.